Welcome to week 3 of the How to Live by Design in 90 Days challenge. So how did you go with setting your top 5 priorities this week? Did it start to give you some clarity as to what's most important to you for a sense of balance? Did it start getting you to ask questions about where your time and energy is being spent right now versus where it probably needs to be? We'll keep adding to the clarity over the coming weeks, so we all have a crystal clear picture of where we are versus where we want to be. You're doing great, by the way. So this week's conversation is all about our values. I can't stress how important it is to know and understand your values. If your relationships, behavior, choices, and personal identity don't align with your values, then at some stage you're probably going to feel that something just isn't quite right in your life. Having clear values means making decisions is so much easier. It means you have a set of guiding principles that you instinctively use, which takes so much time, energy, and angst out of the most challenging situations that you may come up against. I learned how important this is the hard way. Let me share with you a personal experience that really put me on the path to knowing my values. Back in my corporate days, when I was a young and up-and-coming executive, I was being groomed for a senior leadership position within the bank, and I was nominated for a very prestigious and high-profile internal leadership development scholarship. It was truly an amazing program and probably valued at over $100,000, so definitely worthwhile. And I was lucky enough to make it into the final 6, which consisted of a panel interview with the CEO, some of his direct reports, and some external advisors. Now, at the end of the day, I missed out. And when they delivered the news, there was one thing that really got to me. It wasn't the fact that I missed out on the program, but it was one piece of feedback when they were delivering that news to me that really stuck with me. And I know it's out of context, but these are the words that I remember. We just didn't have a sense of what you stand for. And I remember being speechless. It was a comment which was totally indefensible, because even I believed it. Back then I couldn't articulate if I tried what my values were. I guess it explained why I lived a motto of go with the flow. And as they say, if you don't stand for something, then you'll fall for everything 100% of the time. So I had a choice to make and a vital question to answer. And it was along the lines of, what are my principles? What are my standards? What qualities do I consider worthwhile and desirable to live a life of purpose? So what are my personal values? What is most important to me in my life? And am I willing and able to decide right here and now to live by these values no matter what? As Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. So what do you repeatedly do? So how do we go about defining our values? A few years ago, I wouldn't have known a value if I fell over it. So if you're like I was, I'm going to try and make this as easy and painless as possible for you to identify your values and get them in some order and be able to use them to move forward. We're going to go through 6 steps, and I'll go into a lot more detail in the notes that I will provide attached to this week's class. But we'll go through the 6 steps quite briefly here. Step 1, you make a list of your values. And I'll send you on a resource online which is going to help those who have no idea, like I did, what the hell a value is. Step 2 is to prioritize your list from 1 to 10. Now the reason why this is important is because different decisions may cause a conflict between your values, and during these times it's really important to understand what's at the top of your values so that creates the overarching decision-making rule. Now, as I said, I found a fantastic resource online which will help you identify what your values are and then help you select and prioritize them from 1 to 10. You'll see the web link on the email I've supplied as well. Step 3 is to re-examine your values, because you're not your values. You don't have to continue living by the same values or in the same order. As the saying goes, if you continue to live by your values, you can expect the same results. And that's fine if you're enjoying the results you're getting right now. But if you want to get different results and experience different life experiences, perhaps this is the time to change your values or their order so you can start getting different results in your life. This can really lead to incredible new experiences if you allow yourself. And hey, if you're like I was, you may not need to change a thing, because this may be the first time you've actually made a list of your values. Step 4, if necessary, is to change your values, as I've just discussed. So if you go through and you feel like there's a gap between what your values are and what the results are that you're looking for, now's the time to either eliminate some of the values that you think are holding you back, and to put in some values, some new values that you think will put you on the right path towards achieving the results that you're looking for. Step 5 is something that you can refer to in your worksheets, in particular this week. Last week it was all about setting your top 5 priorities. This week we're going to strengthen our resolve around those priorities by assigning 2 bulletproof values. Now I call it the double barrel values. So for each priority I'd like you to have a double barrel value. And it can be, for example, for your priority of family, you can put love and appreciation as your values, or fun and security. The importance of this is because you're going to frame the way you live your values and you approach solving the problems in that priority area. Step 6 is to use your values in everyday decision making. Now, what I'm going to suggest, again in your worksheets as an exercise for you, I'm going to share with you one of my personal philosophies for success and how I like to stack the odds in my favor so I can win every time. And that's what it's all about. For me, life is just a game. So I do want to win, and I do want to stack the odds in my favor. And this is one easy way of doing it. I actually think I stumbled across this in Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within, and I've used it quite successfully. And it's all about setting rules for how you wish to experience your values. And now what's important here is that you apply these rules so you have 100% total responsibility for achieving the outcomes. Let me give you an example of one of my double barrel values and the rules that I've attached to it. For integrity and contribution, my values, these are the rules I've written. I experience integrity and contribution anytime I'm being honest with myself, giving 100% of myself, putting my heart into every situation, not allowing myself to be merely a spectator, by adding value to others through sharing my thoughts, and by providing my time and energy if I believe I can help. Now, as I said, it's important to note that everything that I've put in those rules, I'm in control of. I'm 100% responsible for it happening. I don't give that power to somebody else or an external party, because for me, that's pretty much setting myself up for failure. You want to own it so you can make it happen, and that's what it's all about. So have a look. I know this is a bit tricky, so what I've done is supplied you with my 5 double barrel value rules, so you can see the rules that I've set for my values and my priorities, and I encourage you to do the same for yours, and that will set up the framework for the weeks ahead. So we've covered a bit of ground this week with values, and hold your breath because next week we're setting bulletproof goals. I look forward to chatting with you then. If you have any questions, please fire them through, and also start the discussions going on the forums. I'd love to hear what you've learned about yourself and this process with values, and anything that you'd like to share on your journey thus far. I look forward to hearing all about it. I'll speak to you next week.